the desert of the real.
Welcome to Desert of the Real. I am your host, Ryan Hudson.
I am your co-host, Jason Dietz.
This is a movie podcast where I force Jason to watch all the big blockbuster movies he's refused to watch because he didn't think they're worth his time. We are currently going through the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe. We are two high school teachers. We teach English and film and philosophy and creativity between the two of us. We have graduate degrees, and we use our academic training to dig deeply into movies. We explore the creativity, philosophy, and ethics in our movies, and push you, the listener, to think critically about their entertainment.
Yes.
Today in film class, we were talking about art house movies.
Yeah.
And I was like, you ever seen a movie that the ending doesn't give you all the answers, or the ending's confusing? And some people had some, but mostly... they were not interested in those type of movies. But that's what we're trying to fix in my class. Watching movies that aren't the classical structure. Beginning, middle, end.
Right.
And everything's pretty clear. Why things happen are pretty clear.
Because I don't have that high of a tolerance for art house movies either.
You hate big blockbusters and you hate art house.
I don't hate
You hate all
art
these
house.
things.
Like that one weird one with the Skinamarink.
Yeah?
I actually liked that.
So what's so funny is I use that as an example today. Think of it as like a scale, like Star Wars and big blockbusters on one end. On the other end is art house, and this is like the most art housey thing.
Skinamarink?
Skinamarink. Because
Yeah.
we started it, and I was like, you think it's about to start, but the rest of the movie is like
for
this.
like an hour and a half you think it's about to start.
You don't see faces. You
see some. The mom.
I guess. But like the two kids,
Oh, yeah.
you don't see. You see like from their waist down or their feet.
So the thing about that one, though, is that is the most on the edge of my seat I think I've ever been watching a movie.
So today we watched like kind of how the beginning is, and like they're kind of joking, like, all right, when's it gonna happen, whatever. Like, no, this is the movie. But we skipped ahead to where it's like, come upstairs.
Yeah.
And then it's like, look under the bedroom or look under the bed.
You can't skip ahead.
Well, we only watched that part and then that part. We didn't watch the whole thing. But I'm like, stuff does happen, but it's like this.
Yeah.
And then they were all silent. You can hear a pin
Yeah.
drop. It was like, under the bed. Like, it was fun.
But if you'd watched the 30 minutes leading up to come
Right.
upstairs, you're like freaking out.
Right.
It's gonna happen. So I don't hate art house movies. I just hate ones that suck.
Yeah.
That seems to be a pattern for me. I don't hate all of anything.
Okay.
I just don't like sucky ones.
Okay, so speaking of art house.
Or, sorry,
Go on.
if they're gonna suck, they have to suck so bad that it's like, wow, that was a masterpiece of sucking. There's no, I don't tolerate much in the middle between the two.
What's the movie you just watched that was like that, though? You just watched a movie.
That sucked horribly?
Yeah. Like, he takes it.
Oh, it was The Lair.
The Lair.
It was just so frickin' bad. It was supposed to be a horror movie, but I laughed so much in that movie.
Yeah, well, think of it like a big letter U. On one end of the U, it's like, this is good, and I love it because it's a good movie. And then the lower you get to the bottom of the U, it's not a great movie. But then the other side of the U, it starts being good, ironically.
Yeah.
And at the top of that end of the U, it's the best because of how bad it is.
Just how horrible it is.
Yeah.
So The Lair is pretty close to the top of the second side of the U.
Yeah.
That's a really good film image.
Thanks, Dr. Deeds.
I'm gonna think of my films in terms of U's from now on. So the top of the second side of the U for me is a movie called Nuki.
Okay.
Have you ever?
I don't know this.
Okay, so
oh wait, never mind. What is it?
So in the E.T. time,
Yes.
we made E.T. and then we made, I think, Batteries Not Included was a knockoff E.T. and then Mac and Me was the knockoff of the Batteries Not Included.
Mac and Me is up there in my ironic enjoyment.
Nuki is the knockoff of Mac and Me.
Oh, great.
It is so amazing. Like there's like any 1 minute to the next, you're like, what in the world does that have to do with anything that's happened before or after? I think everyone should watch Nuki because
that's the movie Red Letter Media. They're trying to buy every VHS to destroy.
of Nuki. I believe it.
I think that's that
So
movie.
so bad that it's just like I have just watched the bottom of cinema. Like this is as low as it's ever going to go.
A great way to watch Mac and Me, by the way, if you have Netflix, is the Netflix season of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, Mac and Me's on
that.
there.
Yeah.
Did they do Nuki?
No.
Oh, that's too bad. I bet they would have a blast with Nuki.
Not that I know of. Speaking of art house films, we just had spring break at the time of recording.
Yes.
And I am trying to be cultured and watch more movies all the time, and it's hard with little kids.
Yeah.
But I watched the Three Colors trilogy.
Oh, you did name drop that last one.
I did, but I only watched the first one, blue.
Okay.
Now I've watched white and red.
That's the name of the movie?
They're 3 colors blue, 3 colors white, 3 colors red for the French flag.
Okay.
And its director, well, maybe I should not try to pronounce this. Krzysztof Kieslowski.
That does not sound like a French name.
He might be Polish because the second one's in Polish. Anyway, so I finished the 3 Colors Red, which is a beautiful movie. And then I turned on Ant-Man. And I was like, what are we doing?
Oh, yeah. Just same.
And I kind of like Ant-Man too. But I'm like,
I don't know how.
I watched 3 Colors Red and I was reading different interpretations, like this character is like the director because he turns this lamp on and takes the shade off. He controls the lighting. It's also like Shakespeare's The Tempest because it's this old guy's kind of last hurrah type of thing. And it's like wow, this is so cool. And I click on Ant-Man and I'm like,
okay, thank you. Thank you.
And it's a movie I kind of like, actually.
Well, that's how I feel like almost every time we have to watch a Marvel movie.
But
I'm like, because I watch way more movies than you, apparently.
yeah, well, you don't have little kids at home.
Yeah, we have 4-day work week, and all of my family, except for me, is at school, and that is my movie day.
Yeah. So. When I try to watch a movie when the kids are awake, I have to go play with them.
Oh, I miss those days.
And then when it's nighttime, then I fall asleep, if I'm being honest. But, okay, it should be noted that I don't watch every single movie with, like, the same frame of mind or the same reference. Ant-Man, for example, I'm, like, comparing it to other movies like Ant-Man. I mean, I shouldn't compare it and can't compare it to, like, 3 Colors Red or other stuff.
Why?
Because it's not going for the same thing.
That's fair.
You know?
So what are other movies like Ant-Man?
Like all the Marvel movies.
Oh. So all the Marvel movies are basically the same thing. They're going for the same thing.
Well, okay, I guess we are actually going to get into this a little bit later in Film Studies of the Real, where we're going to talk about who the author of the movie is. And this series is a great example of having a studio as the author.
Being Ant-Man? Is it Ant-Man series? Or like...
There are 3 of them.
Oh
you have to watch
gosh.
2 more. This is the first Ant-Man movie. Anyway, we'll get into authorship.
Wait, why?
Well,
this movie can't have done well. This one was the most non-event of a movie
that's
of the
good
MCU.
thing,
like, who cares? I didn't care about Ant-Man. I didn't care about Dr. Pym or whatever his name is.
Particle.
I didn't care about the bald guy. I didn't care about the girl. I didn't care about the romance. I didn't care about anything in this movie.
Well, the romance isn't strong.
Well, the romance, yeah, no kidding.
This one though, I think like it's also kind of separate from the Marvel movies because we just saw Avengers: Age of Ultron, and that's like this big 2.5-hour movie,
right?
And it's like got all the Avengers, but this was like a little heist movie. It's kind of fun though.
Good of a heist movie.
But it's also not just heist. kind of one, and I remember thinking this at the time when it came out in 2015, where it's like you kind of have to kind of think of this one differently because it's a little bit silly, and you just have to accept that this one maybe is not on the same scale of seriousness as even the other ones. Even the end credits. Did you save for after the credits?
I did. I watched both of the end credit thingies.
You see like a total tonal shift. They have like Winter Soldier's arm in a big clamp. And it's like, this is a different vibe from what we just saw. Like swatting bad guy with a ping pong paddle. That's what I mean. The ending is fun because of how ridiculous it is.
Yeah. I don't know. At this point, like... Here's my thing.
Yeah.
Maybe. But you said, like, they're all in the same box. Like, the MCU, they're all kind of aiming at the same thing. Mm-hmm. But it feels like it's just, I don't know, like a bunch of people that don't really know what they're doing, and they're given, like, the keys to the kingdom and go do stuff.
Right.
And so we have...
That's kind of fair.
Oh, is that for real? Oh, because that's exactly what it feels like.
In a way.
Because we have, like, Guardians of the Galaxy, which I loved. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Like, almost everything works. And then we have this.
Yeah.
And it's not... There are almost no similarities between those two movies in terms of anything.
Yeah.
In terms of acting, in terms of screenwriting, in terms of the dialogue, the nothing. So it feels like we're just getting random interpretations of the MCU.
I think,
which is fine, except for we periodically have a couple of them that fit together.
Yeah.
And so that throws off that, like, if we're doing, like, here are 35 different ways to view the MCU, that would be cool. But we've got, like, anyhow. No, I don't know. I'm really trying to understand why I don't like it so much and why other people do.
Right. I know that's kind of what the whole point of this podcast is.
Right. But I'm to the point where I feel like I've seen, what is this, 12 now?
I think it's 12.
12 of them.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like there's cohesion.
Okay, so that's what I mean when I say, like, on one hand, it's a good example of the studio being the author. But at the same time, it's not, because they give a lot of freedom to directors. Like James Gunn on the Guardians movies.
Okay.
1 and 2... back, like, basically volume 1, volume 2 of one story type of thing that is very same in tone. But, like, James Gunn didn't have total control of where our characters were for the third one, necessarily, because of the Avengers movies in between. Right. But he was still able to make it his own. And then, like, you have something like Black Panther, which we'll get to, is very much like the director. This is like a passion project, and you can tell even if you don't even know the director type of thing. Because of, like, heritage and style and stuff. This is how I imagine. It's how I heard it one time explained. It's like the MCU Marvel, Kevin Feige. He's like, do whatever you want with your movie, but make sure this character ends up here. Make sure this character ends up there, just for the next thing we are planning. So I think they do have a lot of freedom.
Okay, so, like, having the narrative fit together is good,
right?
But I don't know. It's hard to interact with. It's hard to deal with because, I mean, like you said, I don't know, 4 or 5 episodes ago that they hop through different genres, which initially sounded really cool to me.
Yeah.
Like
we had Winter Soldier, kind of a spy thriller.
So Winter Soldier was great, and it worked well, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah. And
then we had, I don't remember what's next. But we're hopping through these different genres. Heist movies are one of my very favorite genres outside of horror.
But it has everything a heist movie does have.
But it doesn't do it well. I don't know what's wrong with this movie. I love heist movies because heist movies are like the home of critical thinking. They're like, okay, here's this really smart group of people who have something that we want, and they're really smart, and they've protected it.
Yeah.
Let's think critically about how do we get that thing out from them.
Yeah.
I love heist movies. So in this case, maybe the problem was that the bad guy was an idiot. And so there wasn't really, like, there's not really a heist. It's just like...
But then again, I love this climax where it's like a big train coming. And then it zooms
that
out,
was
boop,
good.
And like Tom's the Tank Engine falls over.
I loved that fight at the end. That was great.
He throws something and it's like, ooh, click, click.
Yeah, so I loved the end of that. Just like how they played with the perspective throughout that 4 or 5 minutes when they're fighting and they're teeny.
Yeah.
And then they keep popping out to the little girl's perspective and it's like, pew, pew, pew. And then they're back in and it's like, I loved that. That was really clever.
I think that's, the most fun part.
I agree. So, quickly summary and then we can get back. So, summary, Ant-Man guy is...
Scott Lang.
Lang, right.
He's not the first Ant-Man. Hank Pym's the first Ant-Man.
Right. So we're talking about this guy. He's a thief, but he's just been on parole now. And the first thing that they do is Michael Pena, who's awesome. I love him in this. It's so good. He's like, oh, we should do this job. He's like, no, I'm straight. He goes to his kid's party. The ex-wife is like, you can't be here. Get out. You don't have a job. You don't have blah, blah, blah. So he immediately goes back and decides he's going to do the job. So they break into what turns out to be Hank Pym's house. And all that's in the safe is this old motorcycle suit, which he takes because there's nothing else. And he broke in. And so he takes the suit, tries it on. He shrinks and almost drowns, and while he's almost drowning, there's this voice in his head. It's like, oh, yeah, you're trying out, whatever. So then he's like, yeah, this sucks. He breaks back in, tries to put the suit back, but there's Hank Pym. He explains to him, this is what's going on. I need you to help me save the world from the evil bald guy and his ness. And they come up with a plan to steal the evil bald guy's yellow jacket suit. So they break in. Yeah. And they... Oh, wait, no. There's like 4,000 minutes where he's learning how to use the suit and control the ants and whatever. Which there was some good parts in it. That's a heist thing. Right. And there was some good parts. Yeah. I get it. But... Anyhow, like it just, there was enough in it that didn't make sense. Anyhow. Okay, so they're training. Yeah. They break in. Yeah. The bald guy apparently knew they were coming or something. Traps the ant.
Classic heist.
Yeah, traps the Ant-Man in this little glass ball, which doesn't, I don't
remember how.
Like, I don't even understand how he couldn't just be like, push my button, I get big and break the glass. I don't know. Anyhow, they like have this semi-climactic battle in which the evil bald guy, what's his name even? I don't even care what his name is.
I can't remember.
The evil bald guy gets his suit, and then they fight a lot between the evil bald guy and Ant-Man, and they end up...
Darren Cross is his name.
Okay, they end up... He turns Darren Cross into a little...
quantum...
Oh, yeah, he goes into quantum, the realm where Pym's wife is dead in, and then he figures out how to get back out. Yeah. And he turns Darren Cross into a little cube of dead things. He gets imploded on himself.
He imploded. The end. That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
I like how you never see the mom's face in this one.
Yeah, I totally expected when he was in there to be like, oh, hey, look, here's this wife of you. Let me rescue you. I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah, okay. It may or not be.
I'm sure it's coming.
I bet you'll get a kick out of who may or may not play this character. Okay. I'm excited for you to find out. Because Michael Douglas is in this. He's a big name.
Yeah, and he does nothing.
I think that's why he did the movie.
Because he didn't have to do anything?
Maybe. I don't know.
I was so, Michael Douglas is great.
He's similar to Anthony Hopkins from Thor. He can just say something really aggressively and it works.
But in this, I guess. I don't know. Michael Douglas, my favorite Michael Douglas movie is called The Game.
That's one of the few Fincher I haven't seen.
And I love it.
One of the few.
And then he shows up and he just is like this old guy.
Yeah.
and doesn't really have any passion, which I get maybe because his wife disappeared and he got his passion squished.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just like, come on, do something.
It doesn't feel like he's phoning it in to me.
Oh. What were the moments where you were like, dang?
There's a part where he gets shot and he's on the ground, and like Evangeline Lilly, she's like, Dad, and I don't know. I feel like he's willing to like fall down, be carried out. It's like, Michael Douglas, you're doing it.
I don't know. I'm just.
Do.
Anyhow, so positives for me. Michael Pena was amazing.
Yeah.
Like every time he was
fun.
on screen, I was very into what he was doing. It was really good.
Thus far, this is the only average man hero in the MCU. Yeah, think about it.
Cap was the average man.
Yeah, he is, but he's also not at all.
Well, not anymore, he's not.
Well, I know beforehand, but most of the movie, he's like the super soldier. And I know he's more average than like Tony Stark and Thor. But like this is guy, he's like counting the bills. He's like, you see him write out how much money he needs for child support.
Right.
And I'm like, this guy, he's an average Joe. I mean, Spider-Man is the average person superhero. That's why he's the best superhero of all time.
We'll see.
But this Ant-Man, so far in the Avengers movies, it's like he's the only one representing just the average guy type of guy. I mean, he's got like a crazy six-pack. It's weird because it's only in one scene.
Right.
He has talked about how he had a crazy diet and exercise routine, and it's only one scene you see him with his shirt off.
Right. I don't know. Paul Rudd was pretty good. I mean, it was good, but it just, I don't know.
I ruined the moment, didn't I?
No.
I'm going to go make some tea.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, stuff like that. But he's okay, so in Guardians, I hate to keep comparing it to Guardians, but
it's the top of your, it's fair. It's the top of your MCU,
right? But in Guardians, there wasn't just one guy that had all the lines. It was a dynamic bouncing off of each other.
Yeah.
In this one, it's just he's got these random, and they're really funny.
Right.
But it's just this random little in the movie, and then we're back to Michael Douglas not acting really in. Yeah. So, I don't know. There were moments that I laughed and I enjoyed it. But.
And I forgot how stylistic, like when he escapes from prison and he's riding the ant for the first time. And also the tiny effects I think are super good.
I did too.
And the ants still look incredible.
Yeah. Visually it was really cool.
Yeah. What else? Okay, here's something funny. The bad guy, Cross or whatever, he's like, oh, my thing doesn't work. If only I can make this work. And he shoots the guy in the bathroom and like wipes him up with the...
Yeah.
It's like, seems like a really effective weapon as it is.
Yeah.
I mean...
So yeah, I really like Michael Pena. That scene at the end that we already talked about. So this is one of the first ending scenes that I really, really liked.
Right.
Most of the ending scenes, I'm like, this makes no sense whatsoever in the context of what they've set up. Uh-huh. This one works really well in the context of what they set up.
Right.
So I like the basic science. Like, basically, the basic science of this is legit. Like, there is massive amounts of empty space in the atoms. And it makes sense that we could somehow configure atoms so that we made use of that space, which would make us smaller.
Right.
So I was going in, once I realized what they were doing, I was like, oh, yeah, let's do this. But then I kept wanting just that extra little thing. I think how this came about is they're like, oh, wow, there's lots of empty space. Or we could, make use of that space. Big hole between there and the suit. So, I mean, for me, that was hard because I guess I was really excited to see what they were going to do with it.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of jumped the hole and said, the suit.
Well, the original, I think, idea, besides, like, the actual science idea behind it is he gets small, but they want him to look like an ant. So the original, he has, like, 2 antennas sticking out of his helmet. And his helmet controls the ants. Like
Right.
Ant-Man has two powers, shrinking and controlling ants.
Yeah.
But so they needed a helmet and, just a way to explain why
Yeah.
you need a helmet. Here's one thing, though, I love is the helmet feels like a real thing. You press the button, it folds up.
Right.
So if you notice, like in the first Iron Man, and even Iron Man 2, the helmet comes up. Tony's mostly still wearing a helmet. And I think the next movie will still see suits like this. But this is one of my nitpicks because it doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. But every hero slowly gets a magic helmet that just dissolves from
Whooshes
their head.
away.
Give us the helmets that are there. This is my favorite helmet in this movie because you have to click a button on the outside
And it
and
stays there.
it's a real costume and a real thing that exists. And then
Yeah.
Ant-Man 3 is like, whoop, whoop, let's see my face as often as possible. Paul Rudd does have a handsome face, though.
Does he? That's basically all my positives. There weren't a whole lot.
I saw one thing I've actually never noticed when he's flying through, like, the trolley in, like, the escape scene. The newspaper says, "Who's to blame for Sokovia?" And I paused it and even rewound it, and I saw that that's what it said.
Oh, cool.
Which is kind of cool because it's connects, like, what? Like, things have happened. They even mentioned when the Avengers aren't busy, like, crashing,
Destroying crap.
like making cities fall from the sky. Because I saw last time, I'm gonna say this. This was one of the first movies I saw in theaters after my mission. So I saw this before, like, Avengers and the few before. And this movie is one of the first movies to, like, ask questions people in real life have been asking, like, why don't you just call the Avengers?
Yeah.
He's like, nope, we don't need them for this. Even though we have Falcon to represent, the Avengers still live as a whole off screen for the most part.
Right.
And at the end, they tease another hero to come,
Of course.
the Wasp.
Sure.
Even though in the comics, she was an X-Men and it was a mutation. But in these movies, it's
We're
a
just
suit.
loosey-goosey.
It's just, it makes sense in
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah. I forgot about the Falcon scene. That was another thing I liked.
Yeah, it's kind of
I
fun.
thought it was fun.
Yeah, don't let Cap hear
Yeah.
about this.
So I guess that's kind of my overall sense of this movie. It does some fun stuff at the end.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It's just a smaller scale.
Yeah, it's
and
a lot
you kind
smaller.
of have to just turn your brain off to some things, like how goofy it is at the end.
Yeah.
But that's also kind of when it's fun, though. So I like that.
Yeah. I liked
Anyway,
the end.
I'm going to disintegrate you. Like, now playing Disintegrate by
Yeah.
whatever,
By
the
The
Cure,
Cure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, anyway. But those are basically my positives. Power Red's fun. It looks good. The end fight scene
The
is
end was fun.
a lot of the Michael Pena monologues. The other friend, who's the Russian guy, that actor, he's slowly grown. He was coming up here and there in movies, which is kind of fun to see. Like, his first film was The Dark Knight. He was the guy Batman interrogates, who's not all the way there. And now he's like a supporting role in this movie. All the way, he's Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad. And now he's finally got his own...
There's a polka dot man?
Yeah, in the Suicide Squad. And he's like one of the main ones. And he's a real guy from the comics, too. Anyway, and now he's the star of a movie, finally. Late Night with the Devil, which is just about to come out in real time for us.
Oh, cool.
So it's cool to see how he's
Becoming an actor.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway.
Negatives. Like,
Dialogue is weak.
I don't really, yeah. Like, I don't really have any, I had very few positives. I don't really have that many negatives either. It was just, just like, I don't know. I'm shrugging my shoulders. So.
Here's what I like. I mean, we were getting the negatives, but the dialogue's not great. And there's dumb things too. Like I said, you have to turn your brain off. The cops have the two friends on the ground to be handcuffed. Oh no, a siren. Let's run away from them.
Right.
So I was like, okay, we're just not being serious anymore, movie.
Yeah, it's just,
stuff like that. But There's also some inconsistencies where it's like you have the same mass as you do when you're big. It's like, oh wait, here's my tank keychain.
Yeah, what was that about?
Like,
how did he make it? Yeah.
So it's like the movie doesn't even follow its own rules.
Right. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome to the dark side, Ryan.
But I don't mind it so much.
I mean, I didn't mind it either. Like if this was a movie by itself, like not a part of a bigger something, I probably would have enjoyed it. It doesn't feel like it fits in the rest of what they're doing.
I think that's fair. And I think in a post-Disney Plus world, this feels like it would have been a series, like an 8-episode series thing.
How?
So, just because of how inconsequential it is.
Oh, so the series don't matter.
They're supposed
as much as the
to,
movies.
And some of them do matter more. Like, I guess WandaVision directly connects to a movie. But you'll have like
She-Hulk,
She-Hulk.
Law. That's a...
It's frustrating as like a person who's been a fan. Like, there's not even whispers of when we might see She-Hulk again. So at the moment, she exists purely in her show. It feels frustrating when it's like it used to be, here's some hints to come. Here's what you can expect. And now it's like, I don't like the show She-Hulk, but I'd love to see her with other characters, you know?
Because that would...
Make it feel more connected and matter. Yeah, kind of. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, here's a fun fact for you. There is an estimated to be 2.5 million times more ants on this planet than people. In total, that's 20 quadrillion ants.
Wow.
I don't know if this still stands, but a movie once said, if you put a scale of every human and ants on a scale, ants would weigh more.
Wow.
So hypothetically, if you were Ant-Man, you can go anywhere and be like, ants.
You could rule the world.
Yeah. There's a funny Spider-Man joke in one of the comics where he's facing this robber. He's like, I'm summoning them. Like, who? The spiders. Because I'm Spider-Man. They're coming. Millions of them. And the bad guy throws his gun away and stuff. But that's like Ant-Man's literal thing, though.
Right.
He's gonna summon the
right. But
I like Ant-Man the character, though.
I did too.
And it's fun when he interacts with other Avengers.
Like,
you'll see
later on.
Later on, he's a fun dynamic with other characters we've seen thus far.
But isn't he just
he's just a guy.
But he's he felt like a knockoff Star-Lord, honestly.
That's kind of where it's fair to be like, this is the MCU humor type of thing creeping in. I know James Gunn wrote the dialogue, and they're very much his characters and his dialogue, but now we're trying to kind of run with that train, I think.
Oh, so it is like a knockoff Star-Lord.
You're not wrong. That's not a bad criticism.
Dang, that's 3 times you said that today.
Oh, man.
I think I'm doing good.
Where's the scoreboard?
I don't know, but that kind of feels good.
I know.
Wow.
This is
We're agreeing
This
on
is not
stuff.
the first time where I'm like, yeah, this isn't the best movie, and it's not... I'm not going to defend it with my life.
Well, I think this is the first time where I'm like, it's just... it's not horrible.
Yeah.
It's just there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, that's what can we talk about Ant-Man?
I don't know. Okay, so I did ultimately decide to take a look at Darren Cross. So one of the big questions in philosophy is about what objectives should I be making the focus of my life?
Yeah.
And earlier we alluded to, why can't he just use turn you into a booger gun?
Yeah.
And be happy with that.
He needs to.
Right. He has one specific objective.
Yeah.
That is the focus of his life.
Right.
And I think maybe that's why he isn't that interesting as a character, because that's literally it. His entire life is I want to figure out the Pym particle so I can shrink sheep, apparently.
Well,
that's it.
Yeah.
And so I think he's a really good example of why we have to live life. We have to interact with life as it comes.
Yeah, I read a book which I thought would be more fun. It's the subtle art of not giving an F. That's what it's called.
Right.
For the most part, it's entertaining here and there. But my biggest takeaway from that was he said we maybe need to change our idea of what success is.
Yeah.
How personal? Should I get deep right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
I've been to Disneyland 3 times. Once when I was like 8, once when I was 13, and then when I was 29.
Wow.
And here's the thing. Let me open up my heart here. I actually got super depressed after it the last time. Because I looked around and I saw all these people going to Disneyland. People with families. And I see people on social media all the time. There was like a whole subcategory of content creators or whatever. Disney focused. Specifically Disney parks focused. Like Disney adults. People who go every year. And I got depressed. I'm like, I financially can't do this. And to me, for a while, and sometimes it still hurts, not even going to lie, it's hard to acknowledge I can't do that.
Yeah.
And because it's like, I want to take my family to this place, but literally I can't because of my means. And so reading that book and kind of what you're talking about, I was like, I had to change like success. Like what makes my life successful or what could also feel like a success besides Disneyland, you know?
Yeah.
Because even now, we just had spring break. You have to hear people. You don't have to hear people. People are like, yeah, Disney, it was great. It's like, wow, that's awesome. Don't know when I'll be able to do that, you know?
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I spent the entirety of spring break in my house.
No, I did too. And it was, I'm not saying it. The whole point is like, just because you can't do X doesn't mean you're not successful.
Yeah. I mean, I had to deal with that too, because my goal in life was to be a college professor.
Yeah.
Like to be a tenured professor, and I just, wrote crap and taught people. And that was not the plan for me. And so, so same kind of thing. I taught for 3 years at BYUI. My contract ended. I literally applied to dozens and dozens of open university professorships.
Yeah.
And I interviewed for I think 10 or 11 of them.
Yeah.
And they were good interviews. And I'm like, I fit perfectly with what you're looking for. I can get a single callback. And so
I didn't know that.
And so I was like, okay, I'm very extremely religious. So I'm like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? And I had to completely change my definition of what it meant to be successful to come teach high school. Now that I've been here for 8 years, I'm like, oh yeah, I would never ever infinity go back and teach at a university because like that's not me. I care deeply about my students. And so if I were still hanging on to that single-minded focus, I'm going to be a famous college professor who writes stuff, I would be miserable here.
Yeah.
And so philosophically speaking, I think Darren Cross's character helps us realize we have to, if we're going to be happy in this life, we have to kind of learn to roll with what comes and find joy and contentment and satisfaction where we are.
Right.
Because if we don't, we're going to be miserable. And there's nothing you can, like, why be miserable when you could be not miserable?
Yeah. See, like, for me, a millennial, but I'm freshly 30, we'll say. But I'm lucky enough to have a house, which is not even an easy thing anymore.
Yeah.
Because I got it before freaking COVID happened.
Yep.
And I have beautiful children, and I have a good life.
Yeah.
I have not a lot to complain about on paper,
Yeah.
So you reminded me, we're English teachers here.
We are.
Of the poem If by Rudyard Kipling.
Mm.
There's just a line I wanted to If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, skip down to the last line, then yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And what is more, you'll be a man, my son. There's a lot of lines to say, if this, then...
Right.
But that's the one that you remind me of. If you can treat triumph and disaster as the same. It's like, you can still learn things. There's...
Absolutely.
What not have you.
Yeah. So I get asked, like, every year I can predict it. Like, when we do the first day, introduce... Yeah. I'm Dr. Dietz. You do not have to call me doctor. I'm not that into myself.
But I call you Dr. Dietz.
Yes, you do.
Alliteration's good.
It is good. But someone in every single class is like, wait, you're a doctor? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, here is a bad place to be. Like, there's this implicit assumption that teaching here at this school is crap. It's only crappy if you allow it to be crappy in your mind.
Right.
Okay, so one of my very favorite nonfiction books is called A Man's Search for Meaning, which I think you've read, Viktor Frankl.
Yeah. Every person should read that.
I agree. I agree. But he's a Jew in a Nazi prison camp, which, as far as I know, is about the crappiest place that you could be in the history of the world.
Of the world, yeah.
And he finds joy there. He finds meaning there. He finds... contentment. He finds ways to be fulfilled. If he can do that, I think we can do it anywhere. And so Darren Cross, to wrap up the philosophy of the real, Darren Cross's character shows us what happens when you are only going to be happy if you achieve X. So that's the philosophy of the real. So there you go.
I thought that was good.
Good. We got a little personal. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to stay in that.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I know.
But
I don't want to seem too vulnerable to the mass audience.
But maybe we need to.
Maybe someone needs to hear that,
I believe in that.
Yeah.
I do.
I liked that, Dr. Dietz.
I'm glad. I did too.
So I'm going to now ruin your day.
Good.
So the auteur theory.
Only if I allow you to ruin my day.
What's the auteur theory, Dr. Dietz?
The idea that we have to understand the creator of a piece of art in order to truly understand the art.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. It's also kind of a way to think of it is the director is the sole author of a thing. Like you said earlier, the studio could be like the auteur. Everything needs to fit under this umbrella, type of thing. If you looked at Ant-Man,
okay,
there is a little guy who's credited as the screenplay. Did you see who that top
guy?
Who is that?
Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright. Dude, who's Edgar Wright? What's he directed? You don't remember, but you know who this is. Let me just say some movies on Edgar Wright's filmography.
Wait, so he wrote this? He wrote Ant-Man?
He's credited with a screenwriting credit.
Okay.
So in case you don't know, Edgar Wright, he was the director of Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, The World's End, Baby Driver, Last Night in Soho. And he, I think, wrote all those movies.
I love almost all of those movies.
So way back in 2006 at Comic-Con, Marvel was like, we are going to make movies. The cinematic universe, they're all going to be tied together. It's going to be awesome. Jon Favreau, who hadn't directed Iron Man yet, is on stage. Edgar Wright is on stage. You know what Edgar Wright was trying to write about?
What?
Ant-Man. He was trying to make an Ant-Man movie before the MCU was even like a thing. So he was like, I am working on Ant-Man. I have been writing Ant-Man and developing Ant-Man.
So this is his passion project.
This was a passion project. This wasn't
Where's
just
the passion.
Because this is what happened. Disney gets right to Ant-Man now. So now Ant-Man's in the mix with a new owner type of thing. This is Edgar Wright's passion project, and ultimately the studio execs or whatever didn't like all of his ideas. They we need some things to change, and he couldn't. And Edgar Wright as an auteur. So he's my example of an auteur. You see an Edgar Wright film, you can kind of see his style.
Oh, yeah.
true auteurs have like their fingerprints in their movies. You can like see the easiest example to understand is Wes Anderson. You see a frame of his movies and you're like, this is a Wes Anderson movie. Look at how everything's symmetrical, how the coloring is all like light pink or light blues or hued the same. Steven Spielberg, you can almost tell it's a Steven Spielberg movie.
Right.
The way he moves the camera, the intense close-ups, or big ones, Christopher Nolan, Tim Burton, Quentin Tarantino. Edgar Wright is no different here.
Right.
You can tell an Edgar Wright movie. So ultimately, he eventually said, I wanted to make an Ant-Man movie, but they didn't want to make an Edgar Wright movie. He had to step away.
So he walked?
He walked. So they redid a bunch of stuff. But it's most likely like the Michael Pena stuff when he's like doing like... And then I heard from this one guy, he's like crazy rich and stuff. That's probably...
That's gotta be Edgar
That's
Wright.
Edgar Wright stuff.
Yeah.
It's gotta be.
Yeah.
Even I think our favorite part, like the ending, it's gotta be Edgar Wright stuff.
Yeah.
Because if you've
Very
seen
Shaun of the Dead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in an alternate universe, Edgar Wright directed this movie.
And it was amazing.
And it's probably one of the best ones ever.
That sucks. That does ruin my take.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
But they
actually that helps me understand this movie a lot.
Yeah, this was killed by the producers.
Well, but just the flashes of this is really cool, and then it's gone.
Yeah,
that's super interesting. I don't know if I bought the auteur theory until
just now.
This moment.
Put another check on the point for this joke.
Because you could walk through this movie and be like, there he is, there he is, there he is, and the rest of this is. That's really interesting.
Not that I swear I have more examples. I watch more movies than just super movies. But an incredible study is if you watch the Justice League movie with Joss Whedon, because Zack Snyder had a family tragedy. He stepped away. Joss Whedon came in, did a bunch of reshoots. Then you watch the Zack Snyder version. Every single thing that's different is a choice the directors made. Right. So it's interesting to see. Yeah, that Joss Whedon did that. And it's not great. And Zack Snyder did this, and it's just so different. How did they make it so different?
Cool. Maybe I'll watch those.
This is not the first time Disney has done that.
They should knock it off.
Another painful example.
Holy crap.
Is Solo, a Star Wars story. Did you know there was a Han Solo movie?
I think I did, yeah. Are we going to have to watch all of those?
Yeah, we will after this.
We're gonna have to renegotiate my contract. We need
you will have a deets. You're having 2 in a row in just a second. Anyway,
2 in a row.
There's 2 directors, Phil Lord and Chris Miller. They're a directing pair of good friends. They basically directed 21 Jump Street and the remake, and the sequel. Excuse me. They're also writers and producers for the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the Lego Movie. And they produce other things too, but they also kind of have that distinct style. And they were going to direct the Solo movie, and Disney fired them because they had creative differences. That's always the catchphrase, creative differences. And it's like, what would that movie have been like? The Chris Miller, Phil Lord version of this movie. They got Ron Howard in to finish directing it.
He's not bad.
He's a big name, but it's like. Yeah, but what were we gonna get?
What could it have been?
Anyway,
that's sad.
So there you go.
Cool.
Yeah.
My mind has been expanded. If we were in my classroom, I'd put a mark on the wall under Dietz's mind expanded.
Yes.
So, ethics. I think I settled on Darwinian ethics. So Darwinian ethics is a pretty brutal way to decide what's right and wrong.
Yeah. Survival of the fittest.
Right. It's basically, did I win? If I won, like it must have been a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's another reason why Darren Cross just is kind of such a bleh character, because like he doesn't win anything.
Yeah.
Even his like supposed victory over his mentor is just not a victory. Well, I made this cheap knockoff version of what you made, so I win. Well, no.
Yeah.
Actually, you didn't win because it's not as good as So, in terms of ethics, then what Darren Cross is doing is wrong in terms of Darwinian ethics, because he doesn't win at all. He doesn't win anything. One of the successful emotional moments is when he confronts Hank Pym.
Yeah.
And he's like, what did you see in me?
I saw myself.
I saw myself. Well, then why did you push me away? I saw too much. Like that, I think encapsulates his life.
Right.
Like he's always just not winning. Apparently, Hank Pym is like one of the premier scientists.
Yeah.
He got the right mentor, but then somehow didn't win.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And so everything about this means that Darren Cross was wrong from a Darwinian ethics standpoint. Everything he does is wrong because he never wins. So, other than that, though, this was a really kind of an ethically sterile movie.
I don't know if this ties into it, but first off, the daughter is adorable. But I like how the stepdad, at first he's like a flat character or whatever.
Right.
But he's at the end, he's like, yeah, I mean, I don't hate you necessarily by the end. I see where you're coming from. And I'm like, hey, you're part of this family, but not in the house type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think this is the first ending of an MCU movie where I was like, yeah, they stuck the landing. The end is good.
Yeah.
The ending of this felt whole.
I like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't hate this one.
I don't either. I just don't really care.
Yeah, that's fair. But you get to choose the next movie.
I do.
And then Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians 3 or Guardians 2.
Okay. I'm excited for 2 of those, I think. So I get to pick next. So the movie that I picked for you to enjoy is called Lord of War.
Oh, I need an excuse to watch this.
Oh, well, now you have a command. Thou shalt watch Lord of War.
This is Nicolas Cage.
This is a Nicolas Cage. And Nicolas Cage, before he started making infinity of movies, I think is one of the best actors of our time.
It could be argued, even in bad movies, he's committing 100%.
Yeah, I really like Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I do.
And I think this is his best movie. Philosophically and ethically, this is just a masterpiece.
Nice.
Like, I don't know that anyone could watch this movie and not come out of it having their mind challenged.
For the listener, it is on Pluto TV for free. That's probably how I'll watch it.
Okay.
It looks like it's got moderate sex and nudity.
Really? So, just again, this is available on VidAngel and Enjoy Movies Your Way, and you don't have to watch the sex and the nudity.
Yeah. It said violence and gore. It says severe. So
yeah. It's about war.
Profanity.
I'm sure there's a lot.
Severe.
Yeah.
Just want to let our listeners know.
Just be forewarned.
Yeah.
But this is a movie that I feel like everyone should watch.
Oh, cool.
Just like District 9 is a movie I feel like everyone should watch. It forces you out of your comfortable, preconceived notions of guns and war and interpersonal conflict and stuff like that. So I'm excited to talk about it with you.
The only thing I know about this movie is the opening credit montage scene, because it's like the life of a bullet. And that's the only thing I know. Like, you see the bullet getting made and getting transferred and into a gun, basically.
Yep.
And that's all I know about it.
Yeah.
Well, excited.
I am very excited. So this is my first not really related to horror at all movie that we're watching.
Very nice.
So, yeah.
Character growth.
I do watch other movies besides horror movies and MCU movies, Ryan.
Who am I trying to defend me not watching? I watched the dang Three Colors trilogy.
That's right. That means you're at a higher level now.
I am better now.
Yeah, you are better than me.
Anyway.
All right. Listeners, please think critically.
Yeah, think critically.
Please filter what's being programmed into you through critical lenses.
Right.
Thank you for listening, even though Ant-Man's not that great. We enjoyed talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're listening.
And we love you.
We do.
Bye.